Today we shall discuss about social work practice with individuals and groups. Today the social work has become inevitable in all the fields. Here the main focus on social work with individuals and group is an important social functioning and social remedy for the society. The learning objectives is to make the student to understand the main concepts and the components of social work practices which are involved in the individual and as well as group. And it is also help to know the nature and of various techniques in social work practices. And the main goal of the social work practice is to identify the problems and the prospects in social work practices. Social work practices mainly deals with a systematic field of practice. It's a professional service offered to solve individual and personal family problems. The activity of casework practice, especially emphasizing on the group of individuals who are disoriented, confused and maladjusted. Traditional methods are frequently combined in practice where the workers may work basically with individuals and families and set goals that may include a group or community efforts. Social casework is defined. It is a method of helping people solve problems, and more specifically it is individualized, scientific and artistic approaches to personal as well as external and environmental matters. It is a method of helping through the relationship with taps personal and resources for coping with problems, and interviewing assessment of the problems are the major tools of casework. It's psychosocial, which means the depth knowledge about the psychological problems and as well as the problems related to other elements like the physical problems. So there are many definitions which explain about social casework. So Mary Richmond, art of doing different things for with the different people at achieve one end or their own society, and Swithin Bowers, knowledge of science of human relations and skill used, capacity, individuals, community resources for better adjustment of a total environment. So history of social work. In the initial stage, there were voluntary associations improving the conditions of to the poor people, especially to alleviate the poverty of the individual in 1844. Then in 1877, the charity organization gave additional inputs to individualization and casework. and preoccupation with the social conditions extended to individual was a characteristics of casework during the early part of 20th century. So, in short, the history of social work has started with charitable organization, especially to solve the problem of the hunger who are deprived in the society. Social work values. Social work always has the worth and importance of the individual and interdependence between the individual and society. Another important value is the dignity of the individual and ability to make important decisions for themselves. Another important value is that self-determination is a basic right of the individual. The uniqueness value. The belief in the individual uniqueness and individuality suggests a casework approach of acceptance and the view of differences as assets, which means every individual has uniqueness and unique characteristics which has to be respected by the social worker or the social work organizations. Strength and role relationship is viewed as coming from differences, and the value postulate of self-determination. Self-determination means that client will decide whether or not to engage in the casework process, and self-determination is affirmed, explicited and implemented at the beginning, in the middle, at the end of the process. And impositions that remove free choice and self-determination may damage the relationship and weaken the client's problem solving, resolve and capacity. So, values means the whole self of the individual should be given a primary respect. The methods of social casework. The trend in the new millennium approach is to be selective in eclecticism, greater utilization of elements from variety of theories and blending models, and selective interventions that are empirically grounded, a solution orientation with less focus on the inner problems. So, direct practice embracing more than the casework, and greater utilization of interventive approaches that can be measured and validated. Psychosocial model. One of the first models employed, developed by Gordon Hamilton and her associates from the Columbia School of Social Work. It talks about cause and effect relationship are identified between the individual and environment. Psychological and behavioral sciences provide importance underpinning practice, and model has Freudian theory base. Next one is the functional model, developed at the Pennsylvania School of Social Work in the 1930s. So, emphasis was on the relationship, the dynamic use of time and the use of agency functions. The psychological of Otto Rank provided underpinning the functional approach. Diagnostic categories have tended to be avoided as having limited usefulness. And next one is the problem solving model, identified with the work of Helen Perryman at the Chicago School in 1957. The purposes of the process are to be free the client for investment in tasks related to the solution of the problem, involve client's ego in work designated to deal with the problem, and to mobilize the inner and outer forces in the service of satisfactory role of problems. So, here the main focus is to solve the problem of the client. All the efforts are being taken. The behavioral model began to be incorporated in the 1960s. This model is applying model lends to itself to research, since behavior to be modified is observable. Symptoms are the same as the other responses in that behavior is mainly respondent or operant. Problematic behavior is learned through the process of conditioning and task-centered casework. So, this was developed at the University of Chicago in 1970s. So, it has been designed to solve specific psychosocial problems of individuals or families in a short-term, time-limited form of practice. Casework and client reach an explicit agreement on the particular problems to be worked on and also the probable duration of treatment. So, methods of social casework: generalist practice model based on a problem model from a system or person in environment perspective. This model is applied with the unique qualities, values and ethics espoused by a social work. Social casework practice phases as process: intake, study, assessment, treatment, intervention, termination and follow-up, evaluation. Intake mainly involves in the administrative procedures. Accept the client as they are, skillful probing into clients and needs and problems of the client. Study, so it is the next to the intake, systematic study of the client and his circumstances in relation to his conditions. Caseworker must obtain all facts using logical and inferential reasoning related to client's personality and situation. Assessment, diagnosis to find out the sources of the problems, a definition of client's social positions, what changes that could be made in the client as well as the environment of the problem. Types of diagnosis: dynamic diagnosis, clinical diagnosis and etiological diagnosis. So, etiological mainly concerns about the origins of the client problem and his own history. Intervention and treatment. So, it increases the client comfort, satisfaction and self-awareness, resolving the immediate problem and modifying difficulties. Direct method, counseling and interesting clarifications, interpretation, which leads to the development of insight. Environmental modification, altering the client social and physical environment towards the development of the client. Termination and follow-up, it is an ending process. Client can handle both present and future situations. Getting rid of the social worker, plan the follow-up and decreasing pages. Phase 2 evaluation. So, intervention program is working as planned. Content of the program, how well it makes client as well as the social worker. Checks to see the process has reached. So, the evaluation would help the social worker as well as the client to make a further steps or improve the steps for the client. Group work definition. Group work is a method of working with the peoples in groups, personal growth, the enhancement of social functioning, and for the achievement of socially desirable goals. Group work is mainly focused on the issues related to the different individuals in the group or groups in the community. Group work in different settings: family settings, hospital settings, school settings, correctional settings, factory settings, urban setting, rural setting, and community setting. Thank you very much.